Well, we are fortunate that we are one of few countries up to the first quarter of 2009 that have not contracted. And we attribute this to the fact that we made very painful economic reforms years ago. And now these reforms are paying off. They have created a firewall that eases the pressures of the global economic crisis. And also, they position us well to be a good and to have a good environment for more investments and business in the Philippines. But of course, having said that, there are challenges. While our growth has still been positive, it's been slower. And we're working very hard to prevent the global economic wave from washing over the Philippines. So we are working tirelessly to secure our food, fuel, and rice needs. We're investing in energy and rice self-sufficiency. We're investing in education. We're investing in human and physical infrastructure. And these will also position us well to have accelerated growth when the world economy rebounds.
What are the most important industries that you're betting on to lead the growth going forward?
In the Philippines, there are a number of industries that nobody ever thought before would become drivers of growth. For instance, the business process outsourcing industry. When I became president 8 years ago, there were only 6,000 workers in this industry. Today, there are 600,000 workers, young people. These are good-paying jobs, and they keep our young people home and not abroad. This is an example of what I say, that we want to create jobs so that for them it will be a career choice to go abroad and not the only choice. So this is one example, and tourism is another example. And the reason tourism has almost doubled in the last 5 years. So the reason why these industries have grown is because we have been committed to fundamental reforms in the economy, and they gave us the wherewithal to set up the infrastructure needed to make these kinds of industries grow.
Very interesting. And where is that tourism coming from?
It's intra-Asia. Well, no, let me correct myself.
Yes, of
it's
course.
the U.S. and intra-Asia. The U.S. is a strong source. Korea is a strong source. Then you would have Japan and China and Southeast Asia.
What can you tell us about the entire region right now? A lot of people come on the program and they talk particularly about China,
Yes.
given the population, obviously,
Yes.
and that growth is back up to 9% and
Yes.
things are buzzing. What kind of an impact have you seen from that? And can you characterize what the Asian economy, broadly speaking, looks like?
Well, we are happy about China's successful fiscal stimulus, because China is a big market for the rest of us in the region. In fact, we have a big surplus in our balance of trade with China, so this augurs well for us. Because one of the reasons why our growth slowed down was our exports went down. So now our exports will go up again with China as the major buyer. In fact, if you talk about the sources of growth of Asia, I would say that there are three related ones. One is our ingenuity to look for niches in the world market, like I mentioned, BPO in the Philippines. Second is because some of the major drivers and economic powers of the 21st century are in our region, China specifically. And which means that there's a lot of intra-Asia trade. In the past, Asia produced for America, for Europe. Now, Asia is producing for Asia, because we have this very big market of China. We have India as well, and Japan is still a very big economy, even if it's in recession. So we are working therefore for more regional cohesiveness, for greater regional integration. And this is a very important driver of growth as well in Asia.
And the world is watching to see how China will make this transition from an export-led economy to a consumer-led economy.
Yes.
You think that transition is well on its way?
We are seeing it. We are feeling it in the Philippines. China buys, of course, a lot of electronics and minerals from us, which feeds their industries, which may also be export-oriented. But at the same time, China is buying a lot of fruits from the Philippines, and that is for their consumer economy.
In terms of agriculture and food and fuel, as you mentioned earlier, I want to get your take on what's happening with regard to rice, because a couple of years ago we saw rice prices soar.
Yes,
How do
that's
you
right.
avoid a situation like that happening again?
Well, we've learned our lesson. The economics of rice has changed because, you know, like the Philippines, rice is our staple. We really eat rice all the time and in big quantities. But our country is an archipelago with lots of mountains and rocks of rocky soil, and we don't have great plains like the Mekong Plain. So we produce about 90% of our consumption. The last 10% in the past, it used to be more economical to import that last 10% than to spend money on marginal land to produce it. But when the prices went sky high, then the economics changed, and it became worthwhile to invest now in even the marginal lands, in irrigation, farm-to-market roads, more productive strains. So that is what I mean when I say that we are now investing in rice self-sufficiency.
That's very interesting. And the
Yes.
same goes with fruit?
Oh, no, fruit we're fine. In fact, we're an exporter of fruit. It's really rice, because I really don't know of any other country in the world that it's as much rice per capita as Filipinos do.
Yeah. How will you encourage foreign capital to come into the country? This is a critical issue, obviously, for
Yes.
so many world leaders.
Yes.
You need foreigners to believe
Yes.
and want to put money into the country, but to feel that their money and their capital will be
Yes.
safe and protected.
Yes. Well, we have a very good regulatory regime for foreign investment. So I suppose that's one very important message that we can convey. And then the success stories of those who have been in the who are investing in the Philippines. Like as I mentioned, the BPO industry has grown from 6,000 to 600,000 workers. That's
amazing.
100-fold increase. And then we have major electronics corporations like Texas Instruments, who just recently put up a $1.5 billion plant in our country, a new one compared to their old plant, which was chips. Now they have a new one. And I recently gave an award to to Texas Instruments as more outstanding investors, and I asked them, how are you doing? And in their plant in the Philippines, they are not feeling the world economic crisis.
We had the CEO of Texas Instruments on recently who was
Yes.
talking just about that.
Yes.
So the technology industry obviously is increasingly important
Yes.
to the Philippines.
And we are investing also in R&D personnel so that becomes a major source of attraction for investors. You see, our English-speaking, easily trainable and educated workforce is one of our best best features to attract investment. That's why we have BPO, because we have a good English-speaking young generation, and we spend on their continuing education to be able to have good call center English. The same thing now with R&D. In fact, from here, from New York, before I fly to the Philippines, I will be passing San Francisco, because we are having an agreement with Silicon Valley, so that there will be more training and for research and education for masters and PhD in science and technology, so that we can have that kind of manpower for such technology-oriented industries.
Really investing in the people.
Yes.
and in the industry. All at a time when everything is really tight. I mean, in the
Yes.
United States right now, the topic of conversation has turned to health care and how to pay
Yes,
for it. I know
yes.
that you have made some decisions recently to try to keep prices in check, whether price
Yes.
controls
Yes.
or in anything else. Are you planning on making new directions for the healthcare industry within the country? What are your thoughts on paying for this soaring